It is purely a non-practice. Non-practice means we are not asking the mind to do anything. Non-practice means you are simply, your ears are open and you are listening to them. As long as the ears are receptive, whatever I'm speaking, whatever the sound outside, it goes to the ear. You are not doing anything. Same thing with the seeing through the eyes, and same thing with seeing through the mind means you maintain your awareness and attention. Like this, my friend, like this, when we recognize any thought or many thought, any thought or many thought, what I told you that there is an awareness or the space all around each thought, then only we recognize the thought. Oh, so it means I forget to be aware, I forget to be aware of the space. Answer is big yes. And that tells us how to approach the journey. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Bring your mind on the right hand, your mind on the left hand. Lift your both the palms, place it on your eyes, open the eyes inside the palms. Know your experiences, bring the hands down. How are you? From outside to inside. So the master says just move the mind from outside to inside. But
Yeah.
moving from outside to inside, there are more than 50 hurdles and blocks that prevents my mind to move inside. One of the grossest problem was that you told me I feel the pain. But I told you to be comfortable in the very beginning. So the mind becomes half-heartedly comfortable.
Yeah.
You see, it was not that level of awareness, and that is why we go on explaining through different principles why it happened. Last week we understood what is the impurity of the mind. The very first stage of the impurity of the mind, it is unknown to us. Millions and trillions of impressions are there as a reservoir, which is known as the vasana. Now, when I think, speak, and act in the world, those impressions are already inside me. They look at a situation or a person or an event, so the mind pops up with an imagined pleasure or pain triggered by those impressions is the second stage of the impurity of the. You look at, say, for example, you look at the beard guy, and some beard guy in the past has cheated you, and now you look at me also as a beard guy. So your mind already popped up that impression of a cheating. Whether you relate it to me or not, that's a different thing. Impression already popped. So now it is fueled by the imagined pain or pleasure with reference to the object outside. Imagine, I projected. Second stage. After projection, mind says, now my role is done. Now I will keep on thinking about that object, that person, that event. So who supplies the information? My past impression, my past memory. So my mind is constantly thinking about that object negatively or positively. I don't want to live with my parents. So there is a sense of disliking. So I keep on thinking, so let me have my house. So I will have an independence. So once you are independent, now you feel the sense of loneliness. It takes the form of a desire. Now we fulfill one desire, we have to entertain many sub-desires. What it means? Last year you bought a home, one main desire is fulfilled. Very good. What are those sub-desires? Oh, I have to call the plumber to get this fixed up. No, I have to buy the curtain. No, I have to put up the security camera. One desire is fulfilled, now you have many sub-desires. It is because of the second stage, the imagined peace and happiness. Now, because of these constant sub-desires, desire, sometime it is not fulfilled. You call the plumber did not do the work satisfactorily, and you are upset. You are upset. And if he did the work very good, you get a sense of pleasure. Oh, that's very good. No, but you remember, I did not check. Oh, this issue was there in this house at the time of buying the house. So the mind constantly thinks of that. So the desire takes the different shades: hesitation, pleasure, delusion, pride, jealousy. I have a Bronco, my neighbor does not have it. Mine may pop up. That is the fourth stage. And once they are settled in the mind, you have an impure states of the mind, which I discussed: anxiety mind, fear mind, biased mind. So when we say the person is biased, it is because of the impurity. Mind is agitated because of the impurity. All those I explained you, all the different states of the mind, impure states of the mind. Now, impure states of the mind, you have now understand. Let us see what we are saying, the purity of the mind. Simple definition. And then we will go a little deeper. We have already discussed in detail about the impure states of the mind. Why? Because so that I recognize I'm into anxiety, impure states of the mind. I'm in stress, impure states of the mind. I reacted, impure states. So I should recognize it. Normally, we don't have a recognition. We say, no, you made me angry. You made me upset. I'm scared because of some outer factors. So I don't have that cognitive, I have lost that cognitive ability because in delusion I blame the world outside. So that's why I discussed in detail that these are the impure states of the mind. Now come to the purity of the mind. How do you explain the purity of the mind? Any mental thought, speech, or action, any thought, speech, or action that prevents me, that blocks me, that suppresses the urge to realize the real self is the impurity of the mind. Anything. During the day, we have hundreds of events and incidents that takes place. Hundreds of events. Anything, any thought, any speech, any action that prevents, that blocks, that suppresses the urge to realize the real self is the impurity of the mind. How can you think of the real self in anxiety, in reaction, in fear, in biased mind, in reactive mind, in jealousy? Not only this is harmful, this is preventing, but this is also detrimental in our personal, professional, and social life. So it means when we are talking of the purity of the mind, it is going to help me in my personal, professional, social, family life also. Purity of the mind. So any thought, speech, and action which prevents, which blocks, which suppresses, which reacts is nothing but the impurity. So, say for sake of example, anxiety is there. I'm anxious. I'm only anxious because of imagined pleasure or a peace that I have found in the world outside that I don't recognize. So it has suppressed my intellect to have the right perspective. Fear also. There may be a fear of we start having a fear of unknown. There is no fear of known. So that unknown is imagination and projected. And that is how it suppresses.
During the meditation, you talked about space, and when I when I see something or when I see people, the one thing I'm missing is I'm not seeing the space.
You're not seeing. It is because of lack of awareness.
Can you can you explain that to me deeper though? Like what you mean by the space instead of the object?
One thing to understand that with any object, I am an object for your mind. Without the presence of the space, you cannot recognize me. There is a space all around. So that physical object, the physical body is being separated by the space from the other objects. Is it not?
So you can't exist without the space.
No. Why? Space is the container. We are the content.
But what is so knowing that what is like
I
okay,
raise my awareness. I raise my awareness. I have a holistic perspective that without this space you do not exist. Without this space I do not exist. Without this space nothing exists. Why the hell you are angry over me? Why you are having anxiety? The space is a common factor. So that expands my mind. That also minimizes my selfishness and limitedness. That I share the common space. And still I'm jealous of you that you should not exist. So there are a lot of implications.
is the
Lot of
space is the space the real self?
no. That is just we are using the space as a tool to raise our awareness.
Okay.
We'll talk later what exactly is the space, but don't you see that there is a space between us?
Yeah.
I'm not aware. Mostly we are not aware. You are aware of your house.
Like we're only aware of like what we can see.
You are
Like
aware. You are
like
aware of your house.
yeah, yeah. Oh. No, okay, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You are aware of your house.
Yeah,
The house cannot exist without space.
correct.
We are not aware of it. We are only aware of the house. Why? Because the mind in ignorance, mind has created a limitedness. You said just the cap. I'm aware of this cap. Without the space all around this cap, you cannot become aware of the cap.
See, the space to me is like okay, so the space to me is kind of like it almost reminds me of the same thing as the real self because it is the space is the only thing that is the one constant that never changes, and it's like it's all encompassing, and there is no time with space.
Only big difference. There are many differences, but one biggest difference: the space is not consciousness, and hence the space is a matter.
Okay.
We are consciousness. The real self is consciousness. But yes, we metaphorically explain the space is all pervading, it is everywhere, hence metaphorically. So metaphorically means it is equal to the real self means it metaphorically, symbolically to
Okay.
understand. But because space does not have the consciousness, so how can it be the real self?
Does consciousness change when the body dies?
Consciousness never changes, the body changes. The
Con-
greatest, that is what we have to discern, constant contemplation. Even through the meditation, we recognize there is one thing, real self, that is eternal, that is never changing identity in the midst of everything that is changing, including the body, mind, intellect, ego, shape of the body, the world outside. Now you cannot experience the space without the earth. But the earth is always constantly moving. We don't recognize the space on the earth is also moving. We only recognize the sun rises and the sun sets. But the fact is that sun never rises and sun never sets. It is happening only because of the movement of the earth. And along with the movement of earth, there is a movement into the space also, but I don't recognize it. So if there is a movement into the space, it means the space is also changing. And what is changing is not the real self, but metaphorically, symbolically, we recognize it. To make us understand, to help us understand that. So change, so what should we do? So I said purity of the mind is means that it does not prevent me into the self-inquiry. Whatever is happening in the body, mind, intellect, ego, thought process, outer situation and events taking place every day, every moment, is not blocking, suppressing the urge to realize the real self is the purity of the mind. You are sitting and it gives you the pain, so attention goes to the pain. Attention does not go that it is the body and I'm not the body. Look at it. We're entering a little deeper into it. So, purity of the mind has two elements. One is the knowledge and other is the peace or calmness, you can say, or the joy, you can say. The right knowledge always brings the joy. So another way to understand the purity of the mind is that it contains the right knowledge about the mind has an anxiety, mind has a fear. So fear remains limited to the mind. You are separate from it and you enter into the state of fearlessness. Anytime we have fear, anxiety, biases, reaction, duality, and a conflict, it is the impurity of the mind. It is due to the imagined pain and the pleasure. And that comes from the past impression. It has caused the desires in 6 stages. It has created the impure states of the mind.
Wouldn't it also be like true to say that like if I'm experiencing fear, that means that I am acting as a body and a separate thing, and fear is related to the body?
Beautiful. Yes, that is a clear understanding, because unless I am attached to the body, unless I identify myself a body, unless my past impression popped up into my mind consciously claiming I am the body, then only I can have fear.
Yeah.
There is no fear in the consciousness. Or you can say, if the space is equated to the consciousness, fear is not in the space.
What would it be if, like, even for someone like you that is so enlightened, if a tiger were to come through your door right now, wouldn't you experience fear?
No, yes, but that is a natural impulse. But at the same time, only difference between a non-seeker and the seeker is the impulsive fear is there, and simultaneously I also have an awareness of the real self. So there is a fearlessness and the fear together. So in the state of the fearlessness, which is wisdom, I can take the right action. I'm ready to take the right action, but for a non-seeker, that fear has superimposed on the real self, which is fearless. So never ever think that what is provided by the nature, that impulsive or instinctual nature, will help me to save myself, to safeguard myself. So, but the same impulses are misused by the mind is causing the impurity. I'm running and I simply see the big hole. Impulsive reaction should be there. If it is not there, then I will die. I will die. Snake just comes. I should have. But now that is pertaining to the body and the mind complex. That is not pertaining to the real self. So there is a simultaneous awareness of the both. Yes. If I say, no, no, I cannot have any impulse, and then I possess the body, but as long as this body and the mind continues to live, it will have the same movement of the animal instinct. Do you look at the beautiful girl and you have a sensuality? Answer is no, because you already know the permanent happiness is inside. You are living into that state of the permanent happiness. Hence, the question of that sensuality doesn't arise.
I'm at a point, correct me if this is not a truer statement, like, I can look at a beautiful girl the same way I look at a beautiful sunrise, and then I go on with my day.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So the mind does not bring a kind of trigger from the past impression, looking at the beautiful girl, looking at the sunrise, looking at your dad. You have a movement of appreciation, you have a movement of givingness instead of taking, instead of possessing.
Yeah.
In all forms of sensuality, we have an idea of possessing, we have an idea of taking hold of it. So when I don't have that idea in the mind, I see a state of equanimity, whether I see a beautiful sunrise, a beautiful girl, a beautiful car, a tasty food, or in other words, you can say that attachment and aversion do not take over your mind. It does not mean whatever you like, you do not express. You express it. But that liking is not 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 taking over you. Okay, I like it, so I get it very good. I don't get it very good. So what happens in case of animals, it is totally controlled by the nature. Animals are controlled by the nature. Or you can say pre-programmed, or you can say impulsive nature or instinctive nature. Or you can say their intelligence is conditioned. Why? Their intellect is not free. So because they are not free, they cannot have a choice. They cannot think. So they do not have a choice. So when they do not have a choice, they are programmed and they are heavily conditioned. That is why you see, the stronger the animal, the mating is hardly rare, once a year. What about us? We build our muscle and six pack, and then we show I'm the strongest, and also in the sensuality also.
Huh.
Look at the lion has a mating hardly once a year, and sometimes they don't have it. And look at the birds, Dave and dove birds, they have a mating 100 times every day. So you see the contrast in that. So I have to become stronger in order to take over these instincts so that I can progress, I can evolve myself. If I don't take over, they are going to disturb me. And that is why we have practices of endurance, we have practices of breathing, which also takes us to the next level of forbearance, also the state of the stillness, which helps my mind to be scattered outside. So there are hundreds of those practices. Coming back to the purity of the mind has to be understood. So in this as the lesson is going on the topic of the karma yoga, and I told you the karma yoga means karma means action. You are doing the same action outside. You are beautiful, you are appreciating, but your attitude inside has changed. And I told you, attitude has two components. One is a conscious thinking. Now you have a thought of sensuality is being replaced by a thought of giving appreciation of the beauty. You are beautiful, and I have a sensual feeling. You are beautiful. I have a sense of appreciation of givingness because you are beautiful, hence I'm appreciating you. So outer action, outer expression, outer word is the same.
People, but if like Girish, like you and I can talk like that, but if I were to ask, people wouldn't understand that because everybody always thinks that people want something from them. If I were to tell a girl that I think she's beautiful and I appreciate you, she would think that I want sex from her.
Very good. So what should I do in that situation? What is the role of a seeker?
The role of the seeker, karma yoga.
So I meet that girl and I meet and I talk and I wait for that moment when I can say you are beautiful. Not instantly. Why should I say instantly? So you go outside your house and start watching these girls, and whosoever is beautiful, you run after her and you say you are beautiful. Don't run your mind like this. The role of a seeker is very conscious approach. I don't know the girl and I say you are beautiful. I met for the first time, you are beautiful. I'm making you understand. So I need not to give, I need not to have a givingness or nature of a givingness where it is not required. You have just, the flood is not required, the water is required. So when I have that feeling that people misunderstand, it's better to keep quiet. It is better to keep quiet. Wait, understand, and then say it. Otherwise, people will definitely misunderstand. So, in rare cases, when you are a seeker and you say it and people misunderstand it, let them understand because you are still not affected by it, because you have become a higher level of a seeker.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that attitude has two components, the conscious thinking. In the impurity of mind, it is impulsive, it is instinctive, it is habitual thinking. Sensuality, impression is there. You look at something and that has given an impulsive thought in you. And that thought is going to express in the emotion. Instead that you recognize it is an impulsive thought, it is a habitual thought, you consciously think and associate it with a positive emotion and you express it. That is what the karma yoga is. Karma yoga is 99% intellectual, mental, emotional. Outer action, outer expression may appear to be the same. The most beautiful part that happens is that when you are thinking consciously at that particular moment, that very doership, that ego is absent. Ego is always absent with impulsive habitual reaction. And that expands your consciousness. And that is what happens. But that is, we are going to understand and talk about this karma yoga